Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be doing a look inspired by the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Jawbreaker Mini Palette. This is a relatively new palette that launched quite a little bit ago. I believe it's been like a week or so, and I actually did a video similar to this. I did a look inspired by the Jawbreaker palette, the large one, and I decided to do like an accompanying video to that video, with me basically creating a look based on the smaller palette. So this is the look that we came up with. This is what it looks like right here. Super graphic, super just intense. And by the way, I actually was a lot more detailed in this video about my technique and why I was doing certain things, much more so than I usually am, because I just felt like really just explaining my process to you guys. So this video is also packed full of my tips gleaned from my experience with makeup, and I kind of wanted to share them with you guys as well. So if you want to see how I created this look right here, inspired by the Jawbreaker Mini Palette, and if you also want to see a very detailed tutorial, then of course keep on watching. I've already put on some foundation onto my eyelids. This is the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Soft Matte Longwear Foundation. By the way, I am going to be using this white shade right here, and I know that this wasn't actually in the palette, but there is a similar white color like that in the Jawbreaker palette, and I kind of want to do brow bone highlight. So anyway, where was I? I do at some point want to get like a white foundation so I can like really have like that light bright base for eyeshadow, because a lot of like channels who do really colorful makeup, they use really light white bright eyeshadow bases, and their looks look so like just vibrant and popping, and I want that for myself. So anyway, I'm using this as a brow bone highlight. I know there wasn't actually a brow bone highlight in the palette color, or brow bone highlight that would work as a brow bone highlight color. What am I saying? I know I am taking a little bit of artistic liberty here, and a lot of you will probably be like, Anya, you're cheating. But I literally like have been loving doing a brow bone highlight recently, and I really want to do that today. So the shade Orange Crush from the palette is actually a really beautiful like orangey corally color that I really did love the look of. So I decided to basically try and find a duplicate in my collection, and the one that I came up with was actually from the Juvia's Place palette. Now I think that this color is so very orange, and I feel like it's in between these two shades right here, and I want to stay as true to the color that as I can. So I'm basically going to take my little brush, and this is a little bit of a stiffer brush, and I think I'm going to mix these two shadows together and tap off any excess, because that is important. And I think I'm going to basically apply this into my crease, starting with the outer crease and just buffing it inwards as well. I just want to see how this turns out. I feel like it will be absolutely beautiful. And I think I also want to create like a winged shape, so let's just see how that turns out. I definitely want to add some more punch to this look, so I'm going to dip this brush into a little bit of this color right here. And I want to apply it right on top of the color that we already applied to really intensify it. I'm going to take more color and lightly sketch out a light wing of eyeshadow right there. Okay, so this looks good so far, I think. So I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other eye, and I'll be right back. So one of the really beautiful colors in this palette is the shade Oral. Now it's that really metallic, beautiful color. It kind of looks like a little bit of a duochrome, but I absolutely love the look of it. And whenever I saw this color, I was instantly thinking of this color right here, which happens to be called Faso. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this on my finger, and I'm literally just gonna press it all over my lid. I do believe that since this color is a little bit like a little bit sheer, a tiny bit, I will have to go in with several layers, but I absolutely do not mind that. I'm just going to apply this all over my eyelid. With this color applied all over my eyelid, I definitely do think that it's time to dip back into this brush that I was using for like the orangey corally color that I mixed, and just dip into this color right here and just use this to sort of like blend the lavender metallic color in with the corally orange color that we applied before. So now I do believe it's time for some foundation. I have some like areas over here that I need to cover, and in general my face is not looking the most moisturized, and it's kind of looking a little bit lackluster, well, in my personal opinion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take like the Physicians Formula That Healthy foundation. This stuff literally transforms my skin and I absolutely love it, and you really don't need a lot. And I'm going to first apply the color or apply the product to the areas of my face where I feel like I need it the most. And then I'm gonna take a buffing brush and really just buff the remaining product into the skin. I love applying foundation with a flat brush these days because I really do feel like you waste a lot less product when you are literally painting the foundation onto your skin. And while I don't like ever really just paint the foundation on my skin and just leave it, I tend to prefer to go in with a buffing brush. I really do feel like this method really just gives you like a good coverage on the face. You don't really have to use as much product and you're not wasting as much product, which is absolutely ideal. Of course, I'm just going to take this color and just work it into my skin. Then I'm just going to take the rest of the foundation left on the back of my hand and buff this in as well. So this essentially does give my skin this really touchable look, in my personal opinion. I mean, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, this is natural lighting, and my skin looks like skin. Yes, it's because I don't really apply a lot of foundation, but I think it's also because of the product. So moving on, I'm gonna go for my under eye area. So I really want to go with a brush that is quite stiff. I think I'm gonna use this one right here. This is actually from one of the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. What I do is I just collect these brushes, and I love using this end specifically. This other end, not a big fan of it, but this like stiff end, I absolutely love using it, especially for my under eye area and for packing on shadow. I'm literally going to take this color called Perp Smurf from the color Drain Vivid Pigments palette, which I think is remarkably similar to the color Purple Punch, and I'm basically going to load it onto the brush, and I'm pretty much going to use this color to define my lower lash line. I'm going to take a little bit more into my brush and reapply that shade, focusing this application on the outer part of my lower lash line. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take still more onto my brush, and I'm going to extend the shadow to create a winged shape for the top part of my eyelid. And I'm also pretty much using this color as a liner for my top lash line as well. This is a pressed pigment that I'm using right now, so pressed pigments in my experience typically don't layer well on top of other shadows, especially metallic ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an even stiffer brush, and this is like just like your typical stiff pencil brush. I'm going to dip this into that color, and I'm essentially going to use this brush as a liner brush to really intensify that purple in my top lash line. Since I'm literally applying the pigment onto my lid and I'm not wetting the brush, I'm not using any glitter glue, I'm just relying on the brushes and like how stiff they are and just packing on the shade repeatedly, it creates a really soft winged effect. And I know that this is dramatic, I know that this is like really just out there, But I really do appreciate the way that even though this like sort of liner effect is so dramatic and is so editorial looking, it still is made to look a little bit more soft, even though I am still applying a very thick line of eyeshadow. It still looks very soft in my opinion, and a lot more forgiving I think than it would be if I just simply used like a thick, solid, sharp line for eyeliner. So that is sort of the reasoning behind that. I'm gonna go ahead and do my best to replicate this effect on my other eye. Wish me luck. We'll see how this goes. For my inner corner highlight, I decided to find a shade that was very similar to the shade called Slice, and I was looking for a gold color that was very saturated, that was very metallic, and had that specific really just warm gold kind of look to it. And the shade that I found was actually from my need to be used singles palette, and this color right here, it is called, I believe, 24K, and it is from the indie brand Looksy Beauty. This is a really beautiful, just like saturated metallic gold color, and I'm using this in my inner corner as a highlight. When it comes to inner corner highlights specifically, I love to use my fingers, usually either my ring finger or my pinky finger, and today I'm using my ring finger. And what I do is I usually take the first layer of product and I just apply it into my inner corner. Then with the remaining layers and layers and layers that I'm applying to really intensify the shadow, I tend to just spread the color around almost into like my inner crease area and also into the inner part of my lower lash line. This is all meant to really just infuse the inner corner highlight into the rest of my look. I don't want my inner corner highlight to just look like it was just plopped on. I want it to be a part of the look, and I want it to actually like really bolster the look as well, because my thing is, with the way I do makeup, whenever I have like a shadow go into the inner portion of my crease or into the inner portion of my eyelid, it usually looks a bit awkward just sitting there. Maybe it's the techniques I use, maybe it's my skill set, but I find that an inner corner highlight spread around a bit and really just intensified, specifically in the like right in the inner corner, really just helps elevate the look so much. And what I do, I know this is like really like me ranting about inner corner highlight. You probably don't want to hear this, but I kind of feel like being very specific in this video. What I usually tend to do is I just take one last layer of color and I just press it right into my inner corner, like right specifically to really get that beam of pigment right there, because I don't want this to look like really just brilliant all over, because I kind of want this inner corner highlight to be kind of like an ombre effect. I don't want it to just be like intense all around. I really just want it to, like I said before, melt and sort of fuse into my skin. That was like the longest I've ever talked about inner corner highlight. Hopefully you'll forgive me. Anyway, moving on, I'm definitely going to be doing false lashes and mascara, but beforehand I kind of do want to do a little bit of highlight and bronzing slash contouring, you know, that sort of stuff. So I'm thinking I can just do like my traditional all around what I usually do, which is basically, or what I've usually been doing, which is basically taking like my Wet n Wild liquid highlight in the shade Gilded Glow, and I usually just apply this to the high points of my cheekbones. I really like this because it's super reflective, and yet the format really just aids me in making sure that the highlight literally looks like it's part of the skin. I like just applying this straight with the applicator and just diffusing the edges, because it really just gives me like this pop of highlight that I really just absolutely love. And I usually like to use like a smallish brush to blend out the edges of that highlight, because my like style, like my makeup style, is usually like involving me basically extending the eyeshadow into like my temple area, and I want to make sure that the brush that I'm using for blending my highlight is not necessarily affecting the eyeshadow look in a negative way. So that's why I like to use a really small, albeit stiff brush, or not that stiff, but just like a medium thickness, and that sounds so weird, and just using this to diffuse the color. And then I take the remaining product and just apply this to the center of my face. I don't really like to have a lot of highlight in the center of my face because I'm not really looking for everybody to be staring at the center of my face. I like to have popping cheekbones, but then again, I still want to balance things out, which is why I am applying product into the center of my face. Now, because I'm extra, I want to take another palette. This one happens to be the KKW Beauty and Mario palette that they launched like ages ago that everyone has now forgotten about, except me, possibly. So I'm just going to take my little brush. I'm going to mix in this color with this color, and I'm just going to apply this to the high points of my cheeks. I'm mixing this gold color in with this like really creamy color because I want to create a highlight effect that is essentially a light gold, so it mimics the tone of my inner corner highlight, if you will. And then to add some definition to this otherwise completely undefined face of mine, I'm going to just go in with some bronzer. This one happens to be the Milani Extra Large, I can't speak today, the Milani Extra Large Bronzer, and this is in the shade number 2 Fake Tan. Why do I have to keep checking? I use this often enough that I should already know the shade, but yeah. That's just me. So I just swirl the brush in the pan, tap off any excess, there usually isn't any, and I just use this to lightly chisel out the face. And since I don't want to put a lot of contour on today, I'm going on very, very light-handed. Something that I have found recently after watching my videos and cringing at myself in the editing process is that a lot of times, like in the past, even like last month, I would really just apply a lot of like contour / bronzing into my temple area when there was really no need for it, because essentially like what you want to do is you want to create the shadow over here, and you also want to blend it into your temple so it doesn't look like a stripe of color. But then at the same time, you don't necessarily need a ton of product up in the temples, because then it just looks like you put a lot of bronzer on. So what I found out is that I like to go in with most of the product in this area, and even so, this is another tip, I usually tend to apply the bronzer or contour or whatever I want to use that day to chisel out my face. I usually tend to apply the product right above my natural hollow of the face, because I always love to lift my face. I always feel like my bone structure is not as chiseled as I would like it to be, which is why I fake it with makeup. So my natural hollow is pretty much right here, pretty much. You notice that I'm applying bronzer kind of like right up here. It's literally like a centimeter of difference. It's not that much of a difference, but it's minimal enough to make it look like a natural shadow. And it's also just enough to really just lift my face and make me look more attractive. Which I always like. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to speed this immensely long video with some jump cuts. So I'm going to try and go ahead and do my mascara and my lashes off camera, and I'm going to figure out what kind of lip I want, and then I'll be right back with you guys to finish up this look. I really truly believe that these lashes are on their last legs, because I tried to apply this lash and it almost came apart completely. I really do use my lashes until they fall apart, but it really sucks because these are like some of my favorite lashes. These are the Eyeler and Vegas Nay lashes in the style Grand Glamour. I absolutely love them, and this is like my one pair that I have left, so that is great. I am, however, going to be doing a little bit of like a darker pink lip today. This is a lip color from Wet n Wild. It's in the shade Smoking Hot Pink 905D. So I'm just going to apply this on my lips, and then for gloss I will be using the Essence liquid lipstick. It says it's a liquid lipstick. I don't believe it. It's actually, in my opinion, a gloss, and this is like a nude color right there. Okay, so that pretty much completes this look inspired by the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Jawbreaker palette. I truly love how this look turned out. It's just so dramatic and so strong. structural, but at the same time you do have certain elements of softness, and I really just love how dramatic and slightly editorial it is. Thank you so much for watching, Tilly, and I will say that this entire series on my channel, me making looks inspired by palettes on the market using shades in my own collection, it has really just made me so much more creative. And I am like very cognizant of the fact that some people don't like this type of video. I really don't know why. I just know that these videos are usually some of the most disliked videos on my channel in terms of statistics, but I do know that the people who really just understand my my drive and my passion for creating just new and magical things out of things that I already own. I feel like if you're that person who's watching, you really do enjoy this video series, and I really just appreciate you watching and leaving your feedback in the comments. I really just appreciate it so much, and I just wanted to say thank you. But yeah, that is the end of this video for today. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I also really do hope that this video inspired you to look beyond just the newest releases and start looking within your own makeup collection and seeing what you can create. I feel like whenever I look at one of these newer color stories, whenever I look at a palette, and whenever I start thinking about ways I can create a look inspired by those shades, I always create something new and different that I haven't necessarily done before, because it's almost like my brain is tricked into thinking that I have a brand new palette to be creative with, when in reality I'm literally not spending any money. I'm just going ahead and using the things that I already own in my collection, and that is just magical. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it inspired you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye guys.